Hello, this is Mr. Jones, and I'm going to talk to you about variables and expressions. Looking at this chart, you can use this chart to determine how many miles you can drive on 10 gallons of gas. So let's take a look at this chart. Let's look at a Civic. A Civic on 10 gallons of gas can go 300 miles. So if I wanted to write an expression to find out the miles per gallon, I would use 300 divided by 10 would be my expression. Because I'm using numbers, this would be considered a numerical expression. But what if I had a friend who drives an Outback? And I asked him how many miles he gets on 10 gallons of gas. He doesn't know. So he's going to assign a variable called m. And I can still write an expression to find out his miles per gallon, and that expression would just be m divided by 10. And in this case, m is my variable. M divided by 10 would be my variable expression. And so, things to think about. A variable is a letter that stands for a number. In this case, m is our variable, and it represents the number of miles that my friend can drive on 10 gallons of gas. A variable expression is a mathematical phrase that uses variables, numerals, and operation symbols. In this case, m divided by 10 is our variable expression. Now keep in mind, an expression is different than an equation. An expression does not have an equal sign. So let's talk a little bit more about writing variable expressions. We can use key phrases to help us out. Let's take a couple examples here. In this one we have 9 more than a number y. So 9 more, the word more tells us that it's going to be addition. 4 less than a number n. Less means I'm going to be using subtraction, so n minus 4 in this case. A number z times, so it tells you multiplication. So for multiplication, I like to use 3z in this case. But there are other ways to write a multiplication. You could write 3 times z, or you could write 3 parentheses z. So there are different ways to write multiplication. And division can also be written different ways as well. Most of you are familiar with writing the division symbol. So here I have a divided by 12. I could write it just like that using the division symbol, a divided by 12. But I prefer to always write it as a fraction, a divided by 12. And also you can look at an expression that's going to have more than just one operation. 5 times the quantity of 4 plus a number c. So you have to take into consideration the 4 plus c first and then multiply it by 5. So I need to use the parentheses in this case so that I can multiply. What is a variable expression? A variable expression is an efficient way to express a mathematical relationship. You'll hear in some classes teachers talk about variable expression, or in some textbooks too. Another term for variable expression is algebraic expression. Just meaning the same thing. An algebraic expression contains a variable expression contains a variable. But in either way, the expression represents a relationship. It could also represent a rule, it could represent a pattern or a sequence. It could help explain those in a mathematical sense. Let's take an example here. let's say bagels cost $1.25. And so I bought B bagels, right, at $1.25. All right. So B is my variable here, and it represents the number of bagels I bought. Right. I don't know the number of bagels right now. It's just an expression I'm going to write so that if I bought 5, I could determine how much it would cost. If I bought 10, I would know how much it would cost. So to write this expression, or to show this relationship between the number of bagels and the cost, it would be 1.25 times B. That would be my expression for the number of bagels at $1.25. And like I just said before, we can use an expression to write a rule. Here we have a rule that says you can determine the temperature by adding 3 more to 15 times the speed of the ant. And the speed would be determined in centimeters per second. Well, that's just it. I'll need a variable to represent the speed, because that speed is going to change and be different at different times for the ant. So I would make S equal to the speed of the ant. Right. Again, I'm defining my variable here so that I can use it. The speed is going to be changing, and so is the temperature, but here's the relationship. The relationship is between the speed and the temperature. So as the temperature, as the speed goes up, so does the temperature. And so S is the speed of the ant. Now to write the expression, let's look at the phrase again. It can be determined by adding 3 more to 15 times the speed of the ant. So here's the word more, right, which would mean plus, times is multiplication. So let's look at this and write it again. It can be determined by adding 3 more to 15 times the speed. So 15 times the speed would be 15s. 3 more than that would be plus 3. So the temperature would be equal to 15 times the speed of the ant plus 3 more. So here's my expression right here, and that expression would be equal to the temperature. So here's my temperature. Here's my expression to show the relationship to the temperature. Again, a variable is a number that stands for a number. A variable expression is a mathematical phrase that uses variables, numerals, and operation symbols. And these expressions, again, can be used to explain a relationship, a rule, to describe a pattern or a sequence. I hope this helps.